You're tuned into the Magnet Radio Hour here with the Media Action Grassroots Network. We are live streaming at 96.7 WNUC, low power FM from here in Detroit. We're at the Allied Media Conference 2016, an annual event here. We are here now with Vina Kay from Voices for Racial Justice, doing great work in St. Paul, Minneapolis, up north. And I know you just got off a tour of Detroit. Could you just tell us what you saw in this beautiful city of Detroit?
Yeah, for sure. I just went on a tour with the Detroit Sound Conservancy.
Yeah, cool.
And it's an organization here in the city that works to preserve the history of music, the rich history of music in Detroit. And took us around on a bus all over the city, just seeing these incredible places, music venues, churches, buildings that have been abandoned, but they're working to preserve that history. And it was deeper than that. They were talking about the gentrification that's damaging this city and the resilience of the people, and I found it very, very inspiring.
Right. So don't believe what they say about Detroit. It's on the up and up. It's a beautiful place.
That's right.
So come join us next year at the Allied Media Conference in Detroit every year. Vina Kay here from Voices for Racial Justice, doing really great work. I know you all played a big role in the prison phone justice campaign this last year when we won at the level of the FCC in October, which regulated the cost of phone calls from prison all across the United States. And you played a role through really connecting with people on the inside and communicating with Kevin Reese. And I wonder if you could talk about your important relationship with Kevin and what you all have been able to tell about the stories from beyond the walls.
Yeah, Kevin Reese is a important colleague in the work that we do at Voices for Racial Justice. He's incarcerated at Lionel Lakes Correctional Facility, a state prison in Minnesota. He's been there for 11 years. He's 29 years old. And reached out to me a couple years ago, almost 3 years ago actually, he heard me on a radio program and reached out by mail and wanted to be connected to our work, wanted to be doing what we were doing on the outside, on the inside. So since then, he and I have been working together. We've been organizing. He has been organizing his colleagues inside Lionel Lakes, but also beyond in other state prisons in Minnesota. So we're at a point now where we are training about 10 organizers a week, 10 phone calls a week with people inside our prisons, teaching them about organizing their own voice, their own power, how they can, through their own experience, start to change the system that they're in. Kevin is a very talented organizer. He has taught me a lot about organizing, and he has gathered letters around prison phone justice. He's testified by recording to Congress and the FCC. He has also gathered letters about voting rights restoration in Minnesota. He is working on the issue of health and the impact of incarceration on health. He and others inside are now organizing to get their families and communities to vote in November. And so it's a unique civic engagement campaign where they are getting on the phone and asking for the commitment to turn out to vote, getting people who haven't been registered to vote for the first time, and helping them see the connection between their own voice at the polling place and addressing the system of mass incarceration. And really with the message that there's an entire community of people who are not allowed to vote, are disenfranchised because of our system of mass incarceration. We need our communities to turn out more than ever because of that.
And can people incarcerated in Minnesota vote?
No, not only can they cannot vote while they're incarcerated, but they can't vote once they're released until they're completely off paper, until they're complete with their probation or parole. And that's a bill that has been at the legislature for a couple of years. We've been trying to get the Minnesota legislature to change that law.
And how many people are incarcerated in the state?
It's thousands. It's thousands.
Sure.
We actually, Minnesota has a relatively low incarceration rate compared to other states in the country, but we have a rapidly increasing rate of incarceration, and we have about the worst disparity. between people of color and white people in
Right.
prison.
Right. And you all have been involved in the phone justice campaign, sending letters to the FCC, right?
Yes, yeah, we have.
And some of those letters were sent from the inside.
That's right. A lot of letters sent from the inside.
And as I understand, Kevin Sr. played a role in the campaign, but also his son, Kevin Jr.
Yeah, Kevin's son, 12 years old, 13 now, just turned 13 in May, came to the FCC vote in Washington in October. He had actually testified by recording by phone as well with his father, and came to Washington for the first time, had never been there, had never flown before, and very courageously helped to lead a press conference, was asked to stand up by Commissioner Clyburn, and she addressed him directly right before that vote and said, Kevin, I want you to know that this democracy works for you, not just for the corporations that are, trying to control the system, but for people like you. And that was very inspiring to hear her say that. And it was a heartfelt statement, I know.
And that's the kind of work that Magnet does, is putting people from the grassroots, ordinary folks, getting them to tell their stories in front of legislators, and connecting these people on the street with people in the State House. It's such important work that you all do. I know that we sent some folks from Urbana-Champaign to the FCC in Washington, D.C. to help advocate for folks. And we have a 19-year-old woman from the community who likewise had never been out of town, certainly never been to Washington, D.C., and went, and it was really a transformative experience for her. And she's really blossomed and grown as a student, as a young woman, increasingly as an activist in the community. And she's a young woman, Wanjel Harvey Robinson of Champaign, Illinois, who had two parents incarcerated when she was in the 3rd grade, but grew up, raised by her grandmother, and is now a really outstanding young woman student, wants to be a doctor. And so having her talk to people in Washington, D.C. really helped her to grow a lot. And then in Illinois, we just, after the FCC's vote in October in Illinois, we advocated and just passed a bill in Illinois to lower the cost of prison phone calls. And again, Wanjel played a big role in going to Springfield. She had this experience in D.C., and so she was in going to Springfield to advocate at the state capitol, was comfortable and had already been down the road before. And so it's exciting to see these young people really fill into their own shoes. And so, we've been watching from Urbana-Champaign the work that you all do up in St. Paul, Minneapolis. And I know one of your slogans is, out of stories, we build movements. And so I could just wonder if you could talk briefly about that kind of philosophy.
Yeah, the power of narrative, the power of voice is so apparent in this work. And, you tell Wanjel's story and young Kevin's story. And to me, it was more than, of course, the victory was important. That vote was really important. But it was more than that. It was these young people going to Washington and being proud of who they are, of even who their parents who are incarcerated are. And that is not the narrative that we hear in dominant culture. They are faced with a narrative of shame, and voicelessness. And so I think it's important that we've created these spaces where people can have a voice, can start to feel their own power, see their own power that they've always had, but to really experience it. That's transformative organizing. That's not just about winning a campaign.
Right. And we're not going to win without these stories.
That's right.
Right. So thank you for coming on the radio show, Vina. We appreciate having you here.
Thank you.
Where can people find out more about Voices for Racial Justice?
Voices for Racial Justice, all spelled out .org. Come check us out on our website.
Terrific.
Thank you.
Safe travels.